Let's go to Yemen now. The Yemeni government forces, backed by Saudi Arabia, and the Houthi rebels that have been fighting them, have agreed on the first phase of a pullback from the key port city of Hodeidah. The UN has helped broker the deal. They've given few details of exactly what has been agreed. I spoke to Elisabeth Kendall. She is a senior research fellow in Arabic and Islamic studies at Oxford University.
The ceasefire has been effective in that it was better than what was happening pre-ceasefire in December, but there have been lots of violations of that ceasefire. Most recently, a Saudi-led coalition statement that came out last week complained of over 1,400 ceasefire violations by the Houthis, and the Houthis complain of similar. Nonetheless, it wasn't the all-out battle that was raging in December, so we have to hang on to it.
Well, now we have what the UN calls an agreed withdrawal. What are the prospects?
The prospects of this new statement by the UN, which tells us that there has been agreement reached on the redeployment of troops, is that it stops the ceasefire from actually collapsing. And I think we were quite close to that. Clearly, patience had been running out, particularly on the side of the Saudi-led coalition, who in their statement last week complained that the Houthis were not interested in peace and said that there'd been no significant progress. And it really felt like we might be seeing a warm-up to the resumption of hostilities. So this is very good news. It shows that at least phase one of the redeployment of troops in and around Hodeidah and two other northern ports is going to go ahead, and that now has buy-in, not just from those who agreed it in the meeting in early February, but from the leadership. So we have to think of this as a very positive development.
Who will fill the vacuum if the troops of both sides pull back? Then who will be there at the port?
The port is expected to be handed over to what they call in the agreement local forces. We don't know the details of that, and there's been much dispute over what these local forces would be comprised of. But we have to imagine that part of this agreement, details of which haven't been given to us, must include the definition of these local forces. And we also know that there will be UN monitors in and around the port. So that's where the control will go.
And we get these warnings always that this is a terrible humanitarian crisis worsening all the time. It sounds like this might perhaps be some glimpse of hope.
Yes, Dan, this is really important because Hodeidah is the port through which most of the aid flows, over 70%. And so really getting that demilitarized is extremely important for reaching what is now about 24 million Yemenis, 80% of the population, in need. And we have to, though, stress that this is a ceasefire that's just for Hodeidah, a port in the north, and two other smaller northern ports. It's not for the whole of Yemen. The hope is that if this works, it can be rolled out, A, to cover the entire governorate of Hodeidah, and B, to then be rolled out to the rest of Yemen.
Elisabeth Kendall from Oxford University.